Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a story you might think you know.
Yeah.
But trust me,
Okay.
we're going way beyond the surface.
Okay.
We're diving into the world of King David.
All right.
Yeah, the harp-playing, giant-slaying king.
All right.
But this time,
Okay.
we're focusing on his role as a father.
Interesting.
And let's just say,
Yes.
even the man after God's own heart had some serious family drama.
It's fascinating how this source peels back the layers of this iconic figure and reveals the very human struggles he faced within his family.
Yeah.
It's a story of power,
Right.
betrayal, and the consequences of silence that resonates even thousands of years later.
Okay, so picture this.
Okay.
It's around 1000 BC.
Right.
Jerusalem is buzzing, and King David's palace is basically overflowing with kids.
Lots of kids.
We're talking multiple wives.
Oh, wow.
Concubines.
Okay.
A whole bunch of sons and daughters.
Right.
All navigating this incredibly complex family dynamic.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine the family dinners.
The sheer size and structure of David's family is key to understanding the tragedy that unfolds.
Yeah.
You can practically feel the tension, the rivalry, the constant jockeying for position and attention.
And right in the middle of this pressure cooker is Tamar, David's daughter.
Right.
The source describes her as very beautiful, and sadly, her beauty becomes a focal point for a truly horrific event.
It's important to note that the source doesn't shy away from the gravity of what happens to Tamar. This isn't just a historical footnote.
Right.
It's a story of sexual assault and the devastating impact it has on individuals and families.
Now, the perpetrator in this case
Okay.
is Amnon, David's firstborn son and heir to the throne.
Right.
He becomes obsessed with Tamar,
Okay.
his half-sister. And it's clear that this isn't just a case of sibling rivalry gone wrong.
Yeah.
The source uses very specific language to describe it as a consuming, unhealthy obsession.
And here's where things get really interesting
Okay.
and frankly disturbing.
All right.
The source introduces us to Jonadab, a figure described as very cunning.
Okay.
He's not just a passive observer.
Right.
He actively fuels Amnon's obsession and devises a plan to exploit Tamar.
It's like he sees an opportunity to manipulate the situation to his advantage, and he doesn't hesitate to take it.
Now.
Tell me more about how Jonadab's plan actually played out.
Okay.
What were those specific cultural customs that Amnon was able to exploit?
Amnon pretends to be sick.
Oh, wow.
Knowing that his father David will be concerned and want to ensure his well-being.
Right.
Jonadab then suggests that Tamar be sent to Amnon's chambers to care for him.
Okay.
Appealing to David's sense of familial duty and leveraging the cultural norms that placed women in a subservient role.
It's a chilling example of how abusers can twist seemingly innocent customs to create a situation where they can exert power and control. And it's a reminder that these dangers can lurk, even within the supposed safety of the family circle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The source is very clear
Right.
about the calculated nature of Amnon's actions. He uses his position as the firstborn, his perceived vulnerability, and his father's trust to create a trap for Tamar.
And tragically, it works.
Yeah.
Amnon assaults Tamar in his chambers.
Right.
And the source leaves no room for misinterpretation about the severity of this act.
Right.
It's a violation on every level. And it shatters the fragile peace of David's family.
What makes this story even more impactful is what happens next.
Right.
David finds out about the assault, and his reaction is complicated, to say the least.
Okay.
He's angry,
Right.
but he doesn't take any decisive action to punish Amnon
Right.
or protect Tamar.
His inaction is really perplexing.
Yeah.
Especially for a leader known for his wisdom and decisiveness on the battlefield. What do you make of David's silence in this situation?
Right.
It seems so out of character.
Well, this is where we need to delve
Okay.
a little deeper into the complexities of David's character and the political landscape of the time.
Okay.
Remember, Amnon is his firstborn son,
Right.
the heir, apparent to the throne. punishing him could have destabilized the entire kingdom.
Right.
Leading to potential power struggles and even revolts.
So you're saying David's silence might have been motivated by a desire to protect his kingdom, even at the expense of his daughter's well-being.
It's possible.
That's a pretty heavy burden to carry.
It certainly raises some uncomfortable questions about the choices leaders sometimes have to make.
Right.
Was David truly paralyzed by fear?
Or was there a societal blind spot at play that minimized the severity of sexual assault?
Yeah.
Particularly when it involved a powerful figure like Amnon.
Those are definitely some thought-provoking questions.
Yeah.
And they remind us that even the most celebrated figures in history were human.
Right.
Capable of making flawed decisions.
Yes.
Especially when facing complex personal and political pressures.
Absolutely. It's a stark reminder that power and justice don't always align.
Yeah.
Even in a society ruled by a king
who
is supposedly chosen by God.
And what about Tamar?
Yeah.
How does she react to her father's inaction?
Yeah.
I can't imagine the pain and isolation she must have felt.
The source doesn't give us a detailed account of Tamar's emotional state.
Okay.
But it does describe her as being in great distress. She's essentially left to grieve alone while her abuser continues to live a life of privilege and power.
It's heartbreaking to think about.
The long-term consequences of that kind of trauma.
Yeah.
Especially in a society where women had very little voice or agency.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is where the story takes another dramatic turn.
Okay.
Tamar's brother, Absalom, is consumed by rage at what happened to his sister.
Okay.
He vows revenge.
Yeah.
And spends 2 years meticulously planning Amnon's demise.
So we see this cycle of violence starting to take shape.
Right.
David's silence has essentially empowered Absalom to take justice into his own hands.
Absalom's actions underscore the danger of unresolved trauma and injustice.
Right.
When those in power fail to act, it can create a breeding ground for resentment and ultimately more violence.
And how does Absalom finally carry out his plan?
Well,
I know from the outline that it happens during a sheep shearing festival.
Right.
What's the significance of that setting?
Well, sheep shearing festivals were major social events in ancient Israel. They were times of celebration, feasting, and family gatherings.
Oh, wow.
It was a brilliant, albeit chilling move on Absalom's part.
Yeah.
He used this seemingly joyous occasion as a cover for his revenge plot.
So he invites all of David's sons, including Amnon, to this festival, knowing that the festive atmosphere and perhaps a bit of wine would lower everyone's guard.
Precisely.
Okay.
And during the feast, when everyone is distracted, Absalom strikes.
Yeah.
He orders his servants to kill Amnon, and they do, right there.
Wow.
In the middle of the celebration.
Talk about a family drama.
I know, right?
The palace must have been in utter chaos.
Oh, yeah.
How does David react to this second tragedy?
The source describes David as being deeply grieved by Amnon's death. But there's a sense that his grief is layered with guilt and regret. He mourns the loss of his son, but he also mourns the loss of his own innocence.
Okay.
The realization that his inaction
had
set in motion this chain of events.
It's like he's finally waking up to the devastating consequences of his silence. He tried to protect his kingdom by sweeping the issue under the rug, but it ultimately backfired in the most tragic way imaginable.
It's a classic Shakespearean tragedy.
Wow.
Played out on the stage of ancient Israel.
Yeah.
A powerful king brought down by his own flaws. His family torn apart by secrets and lies.
This story is so intense.
It is.
But amidst all the drama and tragedy, are there some key takeaways that we can apply to our lives today?
Absolutely.
The outline mentions that David made some pretty significant mistakes that we can learn from.
David's failures as a father and a leader offer some timeless lessons in leadership communication and the importance of taking action.
Let's break those down a bit. What were some of the most glaring mistakes David made?
Yeah.
And how can we avoid making those same mistakes in our own families?
Well, first, there's the issue of vigilance.
Okay.
David, as king, was used to seeing the big picture, strategizing military campaigns and managing the affairs of an entire nation.
Yeah.
But he was completely blind
to
the danger brewing right under his own roof.
It's like he was so focused on the external threats to his kingdom that he completely missed the internal ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He failed to recognize the warning signs, the simmering tensions, and the potential for things to explode.
So it's about being present, truly present,
right,
and attuned to the dynamics within our family.
It's about making time for those difficult conversations, even when it's uncomfortable.
Right.
And creating a safe space where our family members feel heard and validated. And creating a safe space where our family members feel heard and validated.
You've hit on such a crucial point there.
Yeah.
Creating that safe space.
Right.
Because another one of David's big mistakes was his paralysis in the face of crisis.
Right.
He was angry when he found out about Tamar's assault. But anger without action is meaningless.
Yes.
He didn't step up to protect Tamar.
Right.
He didn't hold Amnon accountable. And as we saw, the consequences were disastrous.
It highlights a critical distinction between feeling an emotion and acting on it.
Right.
Leadership, especially within a family, requires decisive action.
Right.
Even when it's difficult or uncomfortable.
It makes me think of that saying, silence gives consent, by not addressing the situation head on.
Right.
David essentially empowered Amnon
and
paved the way for Absalom's revenge.
And it's not just about major crises like the story depicts. It's about those smaller, everyday moments where our loved ones need us to be their advocates, to listen without judgment, and to take concrete steps to support them.
This really makes me think about how we, as listeners, can apply this to our own lives.
Exactly.
What are those subtle signs of distress we might be missing in our own families? Those unspoken tensions, those unresolved conflicts that might be simmering beneath the surface.
This story encourages us to be proactive, to initiate those difficult conversations, to create a space where vulnerability and honesty are valued.
Right.
And not just assume that everything is fine.
Yeah.
Because no one is speaking up.
You're so right.
Yeah.
We can't just assume.
We have to cultivate that open communication.
Right.
And that includes being active listeners.
Yeah.
Really paying attention.
Right.
To the subtle cues, the body language. The things our loved ones might be struggling to express.
Sometimes the most important conversations happen.
I think so too.
The quiet moments.
Right.
The ones that require us to put down our devices, turn off the distractions, and truly connect with the people we care about most.
That's so important.
This whole deep dive has been so insightful.
It really has.
I think if there's one major takeaway, it's that silence can be incredibly damaging.
It really can.
Whether it's the silence of a victim who feels afraid to speak up, or the silence of someone in a position of authority who fails to act, it can create a breeding ground for resentment, pain, and ultimately more harm.
What strikes me is that despite the gravity of this story, it ultimately offers a path forward. It reminds us that we have the power to break the cycle, to speak up, to act with courage and compassion, and to create a legacy of healing and restoration within our own families.
That's a powerful message of hope. Even amidst the complexities and challenges of family life, there's always room for growth redemption.
Right.
And that unwavering belief in the power of love to heal even the deepest wounds.
This ancient story reminds us that we're all human, capable of making mistakes, but also capable of learning from them. And becoming better, more supportive and more present for the people we love.
Wow, what a journey.
It really was.
It's definitely a story that will stay with me.
Yeah, me too.
And I hope it's given our listeners some serious food for thought.
It's so important to think about these things.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the complex and fascinating world of King David's family.
It was a pleasure.
Until next time.